failure is part of the journey to success.
In today's episode, we want to dissect what it means to build a leadership identity that withstands challenges and causes impact.
Leadership calls upon direction and decision and discipline.
As we look for leaders, we're looking for people who are experienced, but also people who are showing us where we're going ahead. How do we then manage to ensure that we do not have misalignment between the two?
Please remain true to the people you work with and the people you serve. Tell them the truth.
Leadership is not about titles, it's about identity. In today's episode, we want to dissect what it means to build a leadership identity that withstands challenges and causes impact. I'm Dr. Shamim K.Matovu. Welcome to the Imposter CEO podcast. With me today is Dr. Peter Kimbowa, who is an AI prompt engineer. Welcome, Dr. Peter.
Thank you. Thank you. Very humbled to be here.
Thank you very much.
Humbled.
Now, I want us to start right there. I remember a couple of days ago, you and I were having a conversation, and you told me a story that was quite interesting, and I really want you to share that story with our viewers today. For a long time, people have known you as a leadership coach, as an executive coach, and so many others. But now you transitioned into an AI prompt engineer. Tell us about that.
Well, thank you very much, especially when you bring up the conversation and also the story I told you about myself and the never-ending learning agenda of a leader.
Yes.
I think a leader starts from the premise that you are a leader. That means you have followers.
Yes.
And the followers, by nature, they want direction. And direction cannot be achieved unless there's a decision. And the decision can also be achieved without options. Yeah. And quite often, we are working in circumstances of uncertainty, sometimes even volatility. So the world is catching up with us so fast than it has ever done.
Yes. And
leaders are therefore required to be ever present with a future-focused mindset. Future-focused mindset. The Stone Age did not end because Stone Agers ran out of stones. No, they didn't run out of stones. But innovation caught up with them. Yeah. So if it's going to be leadership, it's not about speed. Leadership calls upon direction and decision and discipline to move in that direction. So we need to be like eagles, look far and see what's happening. AI has caught up on us.
Yes.
That's a very new reality that we have. It's called what you would call a rupture in mankind.
Yes.
It's completely changing everything, the way we do work, the way we think, the way we move. So PK has been known, or I've been known as a coach, I've been known as a speaker, I've been known as a consultant in strategy and so. Yes, but let's look at the period before COVID.
Yes.
There were 1.4 million online learners. There were about 4 major learning platforms in the world. During COVID, new platforms came up.
Yes.
We have approximately 15 to 18 new learning platforms. The people who were online studying were 1.4 in March 2020.
Yes.
In March 2021, the online learners around the world were 14.8 million people. I was one of them.
Yeah.
And what was I learning? I was learning artificial intelligence and everything around artificial intelligence. The concept, the context, the competences, everything required around artificial intelligence. Qualified as an AI prompt engineer, because that's what I am now.
Yes.
Yes.
Interesting. Now because we're now talking about identity, I really want you to reflect on perceptions that people have around that change. Because you see, as you talk about this, as leaders, we have an obligation to ensure that we keep building and transitioning.
Yes.
But sometimes we're in communities where people still know us for who we were before.
Yes.
How do you navigate the dynamics of who you are now and who you've always been?
First of all, number one is when you are a leader, leadership is demonstrated through action.
Yes.
So leadership is action. So everything you say, everything you do, everything you write must communicate that change, that the world has moved on. We are no longer the way we were. And that realization brings what you would call humility into a leader. And becomes the central point around the leader's identity. Humility. Humility is accepting that while I know a lot already, there is some more I don't know. Because in our organizations, like in Uganda today, we are following a false paradigm that when someone comes for the interview in a leadership position, you are asking him about history. You're asking him about what he studied in 1960, you're asking what he studied in 1990, you're asking him what he studied in 2010. That is history, unless you are looking for a history teacher. But if you are looking for an innovator, a person who is going to generate creative imagination for the future, you are looking for the wrong candidate. If you are going to be holding certificates of somebody, a heap of them, of 20 years ago and 15 years ago, a PhD of 2010 or 2015, that's old, that's history.
Yes.
What we need today is someone who can point us to the future, someone who can imagine the future, design the future, and execute the future. That's the kind of person, organizations, and even leaders, whether in church, wherever leadership is called upon, even in a family, wherever leadership is required, we want someone with creative genius, with imagination. Otherwise, there's no leadership. Why? We started by saying that leadership is showing direction. Now, you cannot show me direction which is pointing to history, which is backward. We cannot move to the world where we have been. We are moving to the world where we have never been. That's the way nature is.
Doctor, I like your thought process, and especially around identifying candidates or leadership within organizations. And where I see is a challenge now, or perhaps where it relates to is, if you think of the future of employment, for example, how many people will be in the job market? For example, the average age of people within the job market. And I believe you've had conversations around Gen Zs and millennials and expectations. The fact that now you are saying that we, especially for us who have been entrusted with responsibility to appoint, to search for leaders, for organizations, what should we do differently? Because now we see that at the end of the day, we're looking at people who are much more visionary from a perspective of where the world is going to, the trends that are into the market, balancing the perspective of the Gen Z within the environment within which we work. If we are searching for leaders who are interested in showing us history, there might be a misalignment of capacity, support, or even leadership within organizations. So how do we harmonize those two places, recognizing that as we look for leaders, we're looking for people who are experienced, but also people who are showing us where we're going ahead, and also understanding the caliber, the type of people they are leading, let's say Gen Zs. How do we then manage to ensure that we do not have misalignment between the two?
I think this is going to happen in terms of by way of a method of trial and error. It's going to be working from the premise of inquiry, experimentation, and also discovering what works and what doesn't work. What I know today, I think with the policy of diversity and inclusion, we have approximately 5 generations in a typical workplace today. About 5 generations. There are different generations have different interests, different preferences, and so on. So with a diverse workforce in the workplace, we should be moving towards harmonizing or balancing the stability of the past. In other words, creating what we call the comfort of the past, the values, the norms, and so on. But balancing this with the uncertainty of the future, which is yielding new opportunities. So at any one given time, we need the two. to honor the past, deliver today, and preserve the future. That's responsibility of the leader, to be able to balance this in any conversation, in any policy, and in any process that is going on. But the emphasis is mainly on today and the future. And we see this in the boardroom today, that a modern boardroom now is required to have at least 3 to 4 ladies. A modern boardroom is required to have at least 1 or 2 people who are age 30 or less. A modern boardroom is expected to have someone whom today traditionalists call weirdo, the guys who wear trousers which are damaged, and also dreadlocks and so on. We expect one in the boardroom. So it's a diverse
representation.
A lot of representation, but representing what? Representing intellectual prowess. Representing the capacity to imagine, the capacity to challenge whatever is there, and therefore leverage and harness productive synergies of different generations for the benefit of the company, for the benefit of the organization. So that's what's going to happen. So paradigms that we have held so tightly to, we cannot anymore. Why? COVID has taught us many things. That there is no single source of truth. COVID has humbled us that imagination is better than knowledge. So COVID has also brought to light that comfort and growth do not coexist. They do not. So we have to brave the future in new, completely new paradigm, and knowing as we do that you cannot tell me that you have been working for 20 years, therefore you have 20 years experience I need. No. It could be 1 year experience repeated 20 times. It could be experience which has no bearing to the future. Yes. So what do I do? I want you to come here, tell me the challenge I'm not seeing, tell me the solution you have, and tell me the impact it's going to have to my organization in terms of revenue, in terms of stakeholder engagement, in terms of operational efficiency, in terms of talent development, and in terms of the environment, in terms of So give me the impact. That's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for your certificate of 2008 or 2012. They have no meaning to me. What has meaning to me is I want to see what's going to happen between 2025 and 2030, and how we are going to fit into a completely digitalized environment.
I like that you emphasize the element of trends in leadership.
But
I want us to move to core values. What are some of your core values?
So the core values around leadership, first of all, let me tell you some story. My core values are picked from my background and the training, the upbringing, and so on. And I do think, and I want to imagine, leaders should have this, whether at family level, religious level. I'm looking at tribes and cultures that have been around for a long time. Let's look at the Jews. 4,000 years. So I would like to examine, what are the values that have kept the Jewish tribe for 4,000 years? Then you have the Chinese, 3,850 years. What are those values that have kept them together, that have knit the community tightly? I do know Uganda is about 700 years or so, but there are other cultures, 2,000 and so. But according to scholars, there are 4. And those are mine to answer your question. The first one is temperance. Temperance means self-control, self-management. You are self-aware. You can regulate yourself. You know very well that for you to consider yourself to have eaten, you don't have to eat 50 plates. No. Or to say you have had a drink, you don't have to take 50 glasses, and so on. Self-control. The second one is prudence. which is wisdom. The capacity to accept calmly, correctly, what you don't know, new truths. The capacity to create peace within your system so that you can share it with others, because you are a leader.
Yes.
A leader communicates and loves those he works with and those he serves. So they communicate wisdom. That is prudence. Then the next one is fortitude. Fortitude is courage. The courage of your convictions. You know this is the direction.
Yes.
You have the data. You have the algorithms and analytics to convince everyone you are working with, to inspire them into a new direction. That is the courage, and not to dance around. On one hand, this is what it, but on the other hand, you decided. You have the charisma and the courage to go forward. So that's courage. The fourth one, because there are 4 values, is justice. That is the sense of fairness. The sense of fairness, the capacity to appreciate that in this world we are generally all equal.
Yes.
All equal. And in this world, power, legitimacy, and authority comes from I respect you, you respect me. Mutual trust, mutual respect. So when I respect you, you have every reason to respect me, and so. So whether at family level, religious level, if you don't respect authority, then there's nobody who should respect you. So respect, which comes from fairness, fair judgment, justice. So there are 4. There are 4 values.
Have these always been your core values, or they've had to transition over time?
Yeah, I was brought up in those type of values, and you were using different words and so on.
Okay.
But one time I was going over some write-up and scholarly work, and I got to find out that there was a family in Italy, in a town called Florence. The family is called Medici family. During the Renaissance, and I think it's widely studied in business schools around the world. But why? It was an unusual family. They held power and authority in commerce and politics, even religious affairs, for more than 150 years or so. From, I think, from 14 something to about 1530 or so, 1540, 48. Their value system. Why did they survive long? They produced 4 popes, and they produced 2 monarchs in Europe. 2 monarchs, 4 popes.
Quite an unusual family.
So this family, what kept it together? It goes back to the Jews, goes back to the Chinese, goes back now to them in the 15th century. 14th, 15th century. Those were the values. So what is so special around those values? Those are the values that should shape a leader at whatever level. Whether you are a team leader, operational leader, strategic leader, the 4 values that shape your capacity as a leader. Yes.
So now we do recognize that the business world is not really ground level. Like we talk about all these trends that keep coming in, the pressures, everything else that happens, the political environment, the economic environment as well. How do you then as a leader reconcile your personal core values with the pressures of running an organization but remaining authentic to yourself?
I would like to quote a professor in Harvard who referred to leadership as a mindset. A leadership is you establish a mindset. It's not like a set of traits that you go to school to learn. I've come to learn leadership, teach me the traits of leadership and so on. No, I think each one of us can be a leader. Each one of us God has placed innate energies and forces within us. And there are about 5 of them. The very first thing is keep everyone you are leading to a common line of sight. That's give a sense of purpose. A sense of purpose is beyond money, beyond pleasure, beyond everything. What is our why? Why are we into this? So that's going to be a very useful mobilization factor. The leader establishes, number one, what must we do? What is right? Now that's where the values now come in. What is right? So irrespective of whether it is COVID, irrespective of whether prices have gone up, the exchange rate has gone away, we have got interest rates going up, and so on, and debts are rising. You are not going to steal because debts have gone up. You are not going to tell lies simply because the economy is in turmoil or whatever. You're going to remain focused to what is true and what is right. And you are going to make sure that you consult and bring in everybody. So that's sense of purpose. The second one, which you mentioned earlier on, is wisdom. Being a leader does not mean you know it all. COVID taught us that. Being a leader means Mr. Learn It All or Madam Learn It All. It's not Mr. Know It All. That's how COVID humbled us. So wisdom, the capacity to accept calmly what you don't know, or views that are opposed to yours. Because if you have a view, if you have an idea, and it can't be opposed, then it's not an idea. Anyone who has a legitimate idea should be opposed. All other views can be generated around it. Then that's an idea. So number 3 is growth. A leader must appreciate that every single day today, new things are coming up. So the sense of curiosity and open-mindedness, the willingness to learn. I see here in this studio something around unlearning, relearning, and so on. So learning goes on every single day. So a leader focuses on new information, new trends, their implications, and so on. So growth. So whether the world is changing and so on, make sure you are moving along with it. Don't be Mr. Know-It-All. No, because when you are Mr. Know-It-All, you will be left in a world which doesn't exist. Then the next one is love the people you are with. Where is crisis? A crisis that is testing your sense of integrity. Please remain true to the people you work with and the people you serve. Tell them the truth. We are not going to be able to produce these items and so on and so forth because the following has happened. Come up front, have the courage to state so. So that's love the people you work with. Affiliate, connect with them, anticipate, and try to address the issues. Say sorry. I apologize. So the last one is self-realization, self-control, which I talked about earlier on. You need to know very well that you are here now as a leader, but you have every reason and every responsibility to make sure that at any given time, there are leaders in the pipeline who are going to take over from you, whether as a family. You need to move towards creating a family trust and see yourself managing talent and developing talent in that pipeline. So whatever is happening outside in the world, make sure that the succession planning is right. Whether you are a church leader, whether you are in the family, whether you are in the club, wherever you are, for as long as you are a leader.
Now, Doctor, you've shared very, very interesting points that really challenge us as leaders to check ourselves. And as you were speaking, I was thinking about some of the people around me and the things that I've observed and listened to and the conversations from employees, for example, about the kind of leaders that they have, or stories that we've also heard from our friends about what's happening around them. And it gets to tell me that we still have a lot of work to do. Because like we say, you've talked about all these core values, and we believe that also our behavior is impacted by environment and a lot of other things that have happened within our lives. But I want us to reflect on some of the key areas you think, some of the key points that enable a leader to transition over time. Like, what are some of the key inflection points that Help us to see that transition for that particular leader, so that they can remain authentic within who they are, but still within the space they operate in.
First of all, there will have to be rules and guidelines that govern the internal conduct, say for instance of a family.
Yes.
That when you reach a certain point in your life,
Yes.
Some people forget very quickly when they are in their 60s. They have Alzheimer, others have cancer. All these things, we create rules that govern the internal conduct and behavior of our entire family.
Yes.
So once we create the rules guide us in managing all those inflection points you have mentioned.
Yes.
So if I start limping, I can't walk, I can't wake up in time, I can't do this, there are guidelines that I cease to be the family head or the head of the family business, and I become an advisor. But there are also guidelines that while I am an advisor there, I am going to be looked after very well, consistently. I'm going to be respected, I'm going to be consulted, and I'm going to be moving on well. So the issue here, and our biggest challenge in Africa especially, or in Uganda, is to create guidelines, and we stick to them. That will manage whether you are a religious leader, whether you are like in Rotary. I'm a Rotarian myself. In Rotary, they have them. In Rotary, we know the leadership coming in 3 years or 4 years out there. We already know who is going to come. So whatever may happen, we know.
Do you think that we can translate that into the governance structure of
absolutely, of families, of everything? Yes, I do think that Rotary has got again the right values and also norms to keep everyone cohesive, focused, and dynamic. Yes, Rotary is not static. No, it's been around since 1906. It's been evolving. The leadership, every leadership matches the times. Every leadership matches the times. Why? Because we know them. Now, if a leader is going to come, he needs coaching mentally, prepare him to take on this job. Same thing in a family business. If we know that according to our rules, we have the founder, he's in charge, but we all know it's the law of nature and the will of God that this person will go on. So who is going to be next? And if anything happens to that one, who could be next? So in the pipeline, there are people there, and they require mentally developing as they prepare to become the leaders.
So back into the interactions in Rotary, the people that are in Rotary are still the leaders of a lot of these corporate organizations, for example.
Yes.
What is stopping us from having the same kind of governance for us to be able to look back and say, or not even look back, but foresee that at a certain level, we will have X person coming into play? What is the problem there?
I think the problem is with the individual entities, families, religious groups, clubs, business associations, and so on. It's the humility to accept that you are so learned and so intelligent, but you don't know everything. You should move away from Mr. Know-it-all to Mr. Learn-it-all. So it's the open-mindedness, the willingness to learn, and the willingness to try out something new which you don't know. The chief executive of IBM made a statement which is very key, that growth and comfort do not coexist. They do not coexist. So there is a need for you to dare out and pick concepts that you do not know and test them and see the benefit they have. So it's an issue of humility, which is the core of leadership. The core of leadership is the willingness to accept that quite often other views and ideas can contradict the ones you have. And that is the real mark of intelligence. Your superpower is the ability to change, is the ability to shift, the willingness to shift. That's your superpower. A man called Albert Einstein said that the measurement of real intelligence is the capacity to change. So you cannot continue living the way you've always lived and see progress. You can't.
Absolutely.
Growth has to come through real intelligence, and real intelligence is questioning everything you know. That's what is called intelligence. Intelligence is not anything else. It's questioning everything you know.
So, Dr. PK, you have so many successes. I'm thinking that some you don't even remember.
Very humble. Very humble.
Have you ever experienced a moment of failure?
Yes. Yes. Actually, my leadership, whichever leadership I have as a family man, as a Rotarian, as a board member, and so on, has all been shaped by failure. It's all been shaped by mistakes. It's been shaped by adversity. And so on. I've kept learning. The good thing is I started getting into trouble when I was in secondary school. I was a prefect, head boy, and I was fired when we were in our last year. S4 were preparing exams. So I was fired. I was sent home. I stayed home for 2 months or so. I was brought back because I hadn't quite done anything wrong. But I learned because we were 12 prefects. I was in a religious school and they had prefects who were 12, like the apostles. Jesus Christ, 12. So I was the head boy. I was fired. Then when I got my first employment in Nairobi, I was fired again for 3-4 months. I was out of job, but then I was brought back. Again, I hadn't stolen or done anything. There were all kinds of political games being played. So I came back to Uganda and worked in the Ministry of Finance. I was fired again. And so what did I learn? I learned a few things. I learned a few things about people. And on the way to become, and this is where our education system needs improvement. Failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is part of the journey to success. Failure is part of the journey. So all these setbacks were not opposites. No, they were part of the milestones. That every time you suffer setback or adversity, it's time to review, it's time to refresh, it's time to realign, and you become stronger. You become stronger as a result of that exercise. It will become stronger. Every time you say something wrong in the boardroom, and then you reflect on it and see what could have happened better, that's a wonderful learning process. So that's how failure has shaped my leadership.
So, and I really like, I really like that you point out elements of that, because you know, in the work environment, we have a lot of interactions where perhaps you said something and it came out the wrong way, but that wasn't your intention. And perhaps there hasn't been a space for you to, a psychologically safe space for you to have that conversation with another person, so you can articulate what you wanted to say. But back to the element of failure, there are a lot of people who do not share the mindset that you have. There are a lot of, and that's why we see people who go into depression because things have gone a different way, not recognizing that perhaps that adversity is a way to leading us towards where we want to be. How do we then support leaders to navigate the area where they feel they are let down, that feeling of failure? How do they navigate it in terms of making sure that it's a success for their leadership identity?
I think that before somebody is given a leadership position anywhere, he should be interviewed. He should be, when we should find out exactly what is his leadership brand, what kind of leader, what is the, I don't know. I don't know whether you've been to a bank.
I have.
When you go to the bank and you are looking for credit, the bank has got some kind of pillars they look for when they are trying to give you a loan. Credit scoring. They look at number one. They look at your character. Okay, they look at your character. Then they look at your competence, your capacity do the business, to use the money. Then they look at your collateral. Is there anything that we can fall back to? Do you have references? Have you been coached? Have you been trained? That's a leadership. Then they also look at your business situation, the context in which you are going to work. Okay. And then of course they may look at a couple of other things like your capacity and competence to connect, communication and the networks that you have to grow the business also. So there are a lot of C's that they look at. My thinking is the kind of leadership we have today, the leadership credentials. When people are looking for leaders, people are not examining character. People don't check well the character of a person. That is very key in a leadership, the character. Because if someone if I am a chairman of a board, if I am MD, my main role is to be a coach and a cop, both. I will need to share with you where you've gone wrong.
That's you being a cop.
That is a cop. I show you where I think you have not worked on the KPIs, on what we have agreed. But then I will also suggest what I think you could do better. In other words, I show you exactly what I like about what you've done. I will share with you what I think you need to improve. I will also share with you areas where you know you can excel and scale. Then I offer my support. Now, that is a true leader. A true leader is not simply a cop, a policeman showing you where you have gone wrong, harassing you. A leader is influential. A leader uses not a fist, but a fingerprint. A leader touches your mind and your heart at the same time. That's a leader. I cannot work with you when I'm not inspiring you, I'm not interested in you. Today, when we are interviewing leaders, we ask them what is their multiplier of 3, at least 3. Who are the people who are mentoring you? At least 3. Around the world or in Uganda? What are the 3 learning platforms that are challenging your intellect every day? What are the 3 learning platforms you go to? We also ask, who are the 3 people you are supporting to bring up, to transform? Who are the people you are inspiring and mentoring and so on? Because your leadership is shown through that, bringing up others. Then I also mentioned, what are the 3 main goals you are working on? And what are the 3 areas that you are dropping, that you can't do now as you prepare to go to the future? That's called the multiplier of 3. And when we interview a leader, we want to hear. Now, if you're going to be a leader in an organization and you say, no one is coaching you, who are you? That is building an exaggerated opinion of self. And in terms of value system, you don't qualify.
But have you experienced situations where the leader can't even tell you his multiplier or her multiplier of 3?
Many times. I've found leaders who have an exaggerated opinion of self. I have had leaders who are glorifying their sense of ignorance.
And how do you deal with that?
Blissful ignorance. We usually very courteous with these leaders, very courteous. And we ask simple questions. Are there things you feel you don't know, but you should know? Do you still have a headroom for learning? Are there leadership development goals that you think you need to attain? If this company is going to be this and that and so. So we ask questions that are very incisive, but also quite humbling. To bring some kind of reality check in the brain of the person.
So if you find yourself in a situation where, and let me give you an example, you're on a particular board or you're even supporting from a coaching perspective, where you notice that this leader is struggling with some of those multipliers of 3.
Yes.
But they have a very competent team serving them.
Yes.
How? Because there's always going to be a clash. How do you deal with that dynamic?
I think much of what we've shared with most leaders is the best way to lead.
Yes.
Is not by having answers. The best way to lead is by asking, by questions. Questions reveal anomalies. Questions reveal new truths.
Yes.
So the issue is anyone who wants to become a leader should learn how to ask. There is a man called Shamim, who was the chief executive of Google between 2001 and 2010. That was the most successful period of Google.
Yeah.
He said once that this company was not built on the basis of smart answers, but it was built on the basis of smart questions. So if we have, I've been working as chairman of NSSF, and the NSSF has got very intelligent young people out there, extremely intelligent.
Yes.
Now, for me as a PK, I didn't want to compete with their intellect.
Yeah.
They've got some intellectual powerhouse.
Yes.
My job was only to figure out what questions to ask these intelligent people.
Yes.
And that is the best way for a leader. You don't have to compete. No, be yourself. And the approach to improving other people, ask questions, analyze them, and follow through.
So what I hear you say is vulnerability.
Yes.
Now, I want us to focus on how
Exactly.
we can leverage vulnerability
Yes.
for the sense of building our leadership authenticity or identity.
Yes. I think it has to be taught from school. It has to be taught from a very young age, the sense of vulnerability. Because our system, our society has grown up with a very sad reality.
Yes.
That if you don't get so many marks in the P1, you are a dummy.
Yeah.
You are stupid, you are whatever.
Yes.
And yet life has proven that some of those people whom we thought or who were told by our teachers that they were dummies, they have ended up in life to prove otherwise.
Absolutely.
They have proven. So which means that that was a very false premise. So then that's why curiosity builds vulnerability. Because when you are curious and open-minded and willing to find out, then you can see, you can understand where someone else is coming from. And you can also understand your limitations. Remember, the very first virtue was self-control.
Control, yeah.
Self-control. And you manage yourself.
Yes.
In Uganda, in Africa, we've grown up without that.
Yes.
Yes. That's a question like today, especially during COVID. And so there's a question which we were asking in the corporate world. What if, supposing, we now have COVID,
Yes.
supposing we get drought, supposing the locusts come back,
Yes.
what if?
Yes.
Now, those are questions that cannot be answered by a degree of 2016. No.
What is your biggest AI fear?
Sorry?
What's your biggest AI fear?
My biggest
AI fear.
AI fear? Fear. AI fear, mean artificial intelligence?
Yes.
Fear.
Yes.
I think the biggest fear that I have with the AI is a conversation that is beginning to emerge in the global discourse.
Yes.
Is the capacity for AI to become conscious, to start feeling.
Yes.
Because right now, I think AI is generating quite a lot of intellectual output, ideas, concepts, models, and so on. But you can see the chatbots and so on. They talk to you, you're asking your bank balance, they tell you and so on. But time is coming when AI will now feel whether you are disappointed, whether you are trying to lie, whether you are trying to, and respond accordingly.
Yes.
That is my.
Does that scare you?
It scares me in the sense because that probably will be the end of mankind.
Dr. Peter Kimbowa, thank you so much for joining us on the Imposter CEO podcast.
Yeah.
For our viewers, thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next episode.